Welcome everyone to the Galactica Corecast. This is a space for every present, future Galactica network citizen to have some fun, chat with the team, and learn pretty much everything you ever needed to know about the very first Cypher State. Now, before we start, it's very important, as always, to remember that myself, Cosmos Hoss, and any team members up on stage, we are your guides to navigating the Cypher State, but we are not your financial advisors. In addition, all guest speakers' opinions are their own, and nothing said in this space constitutes financial or investment advice. So now we have that out of the way. As always, let's go around and introduce ourselves on the panel. My name is Citizen42 within the Cypher State. You may call me Dave. We have Hoss in the co-host spot. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Another day. It's Friday. It's good vibes. Not financial advice, obviously. I mean, why listen to me? I used to own UST and Luna, so I thought I was smart. But anyhow, honored to be here. Always great to talk shop and learn some things and hear what other points of views are. And yeah, man, always Friday. It's always good.
It's just a good time of the week. You hold UST and Luna. Oh God. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, my name's Cosmos. I mean, that's all we had at one point. That's the only stable coin we pretty much had was UST. So we're all beat. You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. We also have our technical lead of Galactica Network on stage. AStar, Frederick, how are you doing, my friend?
Hello, everyone. Doing fine. Also happy that it's Friday. Yeah, got some nice. Everything okay? Or why are you calling me? Okay.
Frederick.
Yeah. For everyone who's new, maybe I introduce myself shortly.
Is he getting rugged right now?
No, he's. I can hear him just fine. If anyone's getting rugged, it might be you, Hoss.
Damn it.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Frederick. You can also find me as AStar here on Twitter or on Discord. I'm happy to be part of the Galactica development team. So I'm working on smart contracts, on our zero knowledge proofs, and last week I was mainly working on the Snap, which is a MetaMask extension to get a wallet for Galactica, where you can have your zero knowledge certificates and self-custody and create zero knowledge proofs. And yeah, there's still a lot of work to do to get it in the final state where we can give it to an audit. This is what I was working on the last days.
That's freaking amazing, man. So Fred giving away all the alpha there, but we're working hard on the on integrating MetaMask Flask and Snap and all the new features coming in MetaMask, which will enable us to basically you'll be able to as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, AStar, but you'll be able to pretty much self-sovereignly hold your ZK proofs, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you have the data in your wallet on your computer or laptop, and from this data you can on your machine also create the zero knowledge proofs, so that the personal data you have in there and you want to create proofs about does not leave your machine at this point. Only the zero knowledge proof, which is then verifiable but does not disclose any underlying data.
This stuff. I know it probably sounds it's probably over the heads of a lot of people, but we're trying to explain this stuff in as simple ways as we can, and it's absolutely amazing. It will allow you to basically in for want of a better way of putting it, sovereignly hold your some of your reputational aspects and your KYC and that kind of thing in a private manner. It's super cool stuff, and we're looking forward to being able to give all this have all this tech going on our chain. So I'll just give everyone a reminder. So we've introduced everyone on the stage. This is a community space. This is what it's designed for. So if anyone in the community wishes to just request to speak at any point during the space, please just request to speak. All you need to do is click on the little heart button at the bottom of the Twitter space and press on the big raised hand, and we'll get you up as long as you don't look like a bot. We don't like bots up here. In addition, if you could just take a little look down at the comment section of this space, give us a like, give us a retweet, and yeah, we'd really appreciate that. And any comments you might have.
Yeah, it's that little purple thing in the bottom right there. You can hit that. It's actually free to do it as well. You can like hit it and, you know, put a comment in there and give us a thumbs up. You know what I mean?
It's free.
It's free to it's really free to be nice in life. No, you know, it's very free to be nice.
It's nice to be free too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Right. Okay, guys. So we're going to start off this week's show. As always, we're going to start with the crypto news roundup. Sometimes I do music on this. This time I'm not going to because technical difficulties, I suppose. Sometimes people can't hear me over the music, so I'm just going to speak it as it comes. All right. So the first item of news we have this week, everyone, we have Bitcoin futures, and the Bitcoin futures ETF has actually been approved by the SEC. This is a leveraged Bitcoin futures ETF, and it's set to start trading on Tuesday next week. So this ETF is called the ProShares Short Bitcoin Strategy ETF, or BT, and it will basically track the inverse performance of like the MicroStrategy Bitcoin Futures Index. So if the price of Bitcoin goes up, BT will go down, and vice versa. It's pretty simple, but I find it just absolutely fantastic and fascinating that the SEC has actually approved one of these things. What do you think, Hoss?
Yeah, man. I think they're getting to that adage: if you can't beat them, join them. You know, Bitcoin's been around; it's battle tested. They can try whatever they want to try, but people want it. You know, like there's nowhere else that you can kind of hold things that it's liquid very fast, but it's also a store of value. You know, gold. People like gold; it's been around forever, but you can't, at the whim of a click, you know, trade it, swap it, you know, use it, travel with it. So, I mean, it's just a hard asset, you know, and people are saying it. In my opinion, it's going to take longer than a lot of people think to get kind of mass adopted. What I mean by mass adopted is like big money getting into it. It'll start from foreign countries, not America. America will always be the last when it comes to that. But I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are seeking shelter in Bitcoin, you know, and rightfully so. And again, not financial advice, but I view Bitcoin as something that, like, on a personal level, if I buy it, I have no intentions of any time ever selling it, because I think about it and I think it's just going to be around forever, to be honest with you. But no, it's fascinating that SEC's doing that. You know, they consider it a commodity, and you know, we'll see about that part of it, but you know, they can only do so much, and people get what they want at the end of the day, as long as big money wants in, and it looks like they want in. So
exactly, man. I mean, if anything's going to get big money in, it's an ETF that's accessible to, you know, pension funds and freaking just about everyone. So yeah, this is hugely bullish. Obviously, we've seen the price of Bitcoin. It's a good day. It's a green day on the charts, everyone. We're loving it. I'd love to see some thumbs up in the listeners panel for anyone who enjoys green candles, because I certainly do. What do you think, Frederick? How are you thinking about this, man?
Yeah, I think more adoption is always nice, especially if it's a party that is usually a bit critical about crypto. Yeah, so I think it's really nice. But I think I personally would have preferred a non-trading use case to get more adoption instead of a trading one, but I don't want to complain.
No, I get you, man. I get you. I do, and I'm in the same boat. It's just that, you know, I think as far as adoption goes, you know, and one of the things that obviously Galactica kind of tries to become the middle ground on is that not everyone is going to be able. Well, obviously, Galactica allows you to basically sovereignly own your assets privately and have like all the benefits of having your reputation and your social aspects on chain, like your KYC. But like a lot of people are going to need things like exchange traded funds. They're going to have to invest through their pension fund. They're going to need essentially third parties in order to be able to invest in our industry, because not everyone is essentially really capable of being their own bank, from a technical perspective, or from a time perspective, or from whatever it might be. They're just, you know, it's just, we can't get everyone into our game in the decentralized self-sovereign manner. Or at least I don't think so.
And then even
That makes complete sense.
I was gonna say, even that though, like my background's in finance, accounting, and I deal with a lot of people that have wealth, and most of them, they don't even want to buy individual stocks. You know, they want ETFs and they just want exposure, and they essentially, people just want stuff easy for them. So I mean, it's like even that aspect. Yeah, we would personally much rather get more people to actually physically use crypto, but I do think most big money that comes into this space, they may never even touch most of crypto, but they'll have access to it. Like, we want some exposure to Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever else, you know, like they'll just wrap it up and invest in it, which is a good sign because that makes it more of an actual asset class. And maybe one day in the next decade or so that it'll actually kind of depeg from always kind of following the stock market, you know, be its own segment, you know. So we'll see. I think it will be eventually. And to me, crypto is just like a monetary system. And in my opinion, I think that it's not going to replace the dollar or the yen or the euro or anything, but it'll just be, you know, one of. Like, I think that's kind of how currencies will go eventually, is that there's going to be different choices for people. So I'm bullish. I think it's very bullish, and it's baby steps, but it is baby steps. And that's just kind of the way it is. Even if you look back at like like when like the internet started, it took baby steps, little by little, but we're getting there, man. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. It might be further away than we want it to be, but it's gonna happen, in my opinion. So
100%, man, 100%. And we have a new speaker on stage, Darren, my friend. How are you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome, my friend. More than welcome. What do you think? Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin price pumping like crazy. It's a good day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the adage, like, sellers have no more coins left, that type of thing. But it also, you know, again, I'm not a trader at all, not financial advice, but it does feel a little bit early for, you know, the bull market.
I would tend to agree with you on the skepticism side of things. Like, I've always found, like, ever since I joined the space, every time I tried to actually trade an event, it was always a sell the event kind of thing. It was such a pain in the bum. But, you know, it's that's just the way it goes, isn't it?
I think we're early, so it doesn't matter. I don't want to predict that I'm smarter than the market or what's going on either. I just know from the history of technology that we're extremely early in this space. So if you have like a long time horizon, then, you know, like a dollar cost averaging and all that should do well if you believe in this space. And by the way, Darren, I really like your After the Filter NFT, by the way. Shout out.
Thank you. But yeah, tend to agree with what you're saying. I think crypto in general has to be a conviction play, and, you know, either there's a belief that this is actually a paradigm shifting technology and phase in the market, especially as things go more and more digital. You know, I think like metaverse and AI and all these things don't necessarily compete with crypto. Like, they can be very complementary.
Yeah, 100%. Of course they can. I'd just like to do a quick reset while I've got everyone's attention, just very quick. I'd really appreciate some more likes and retweets on the space. Doesn't cost you anything, as Cosmos says. Free things are cool. So if you could just jump down into the comment section below, give us a like, give us a retweet. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments. And if you would like to come up and join us on stage, anyone who's either in the Galactica community or anyone who's just interested and curious about what we're talking about and the news topics we're talking about, please just hit the request button and we'll get you up. Again, assuming you're not a bot, no bots allowed. Okay, so I think in synergy with the topic that we've just been talking about, we actually have another piece of news that came out today, I believe, which is about the Bank of International Settlements. So, like, on the subject of adoption is what I'm thinking here. What they've suggested in a report that they released today is that tokenization of, like, customer deposits by commercial banks, they're saying it could revolutionize the financial system, which is a big, like the Bank of International Settlements is a huge entity which has a lot of control and a lot of clout. So it obviously has the standard kind of, like, criticisms of cryptocurrencies for, like, not having the trust provided by central banks and all this stuff. Of course, they're going to say that, but there's a lot of like bullish language in this report, and they're basically promoting a unified ledger that integrates CBDCs and tokenized bank deposits along, and being able to plug into like a unified ledger with all the other like ledgers, like all the other cryptocurrencies and ledgers that we have available in the space already. So everything would be essentially be interoperable as far as the Bank of International Settlements is concerned. So what do you think, Horst? I mean, I think that's pretty bullish as far as like interoperability goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I know not too long ago, I don't really know too much about Quant Network, but I know they're like just kind of like a test net. They were just messing around with it and using their ledger. And realistically, one of the main focal points of why I got into this space from the very beginning was the fact that I'm an accountant. So realistically, every single blockchain, all it is a decentralized accounting ledger, and then you build cool shit on top of it. And so everything is technically a ledger. And then now the fact that you have things like Cosmos and other layers that are basically working on making it interoperable with everything. And then, you have different use cases. And I know Darren, when he first came in, he spoke really briefly about it, but crypto is more than just monetary system. Like, yeah, that's what the focal point was initially. But what's so great about technology, and especially crypto, is that it can evolve into so many different things. And then like with some of these technologies, it's very modular. I always like to think of it as like a car, and okay, your brakes go, or you need a new brake pads. Like your car is not broke. You just need to fix a part or add a part, and you can change parts. And that's what's so cool about this space. It's not like once you put it out there, that's the only way it ever is. Like you can actually modify it. And these entities like BIS and all them, like they know that what they're using is very antiquated, and for them to kind of evolve into the next, basically the future, why try to reinvent the wheel? Like these tools out there are obviously working. People can have their own thought process about how people are doing things in crypto, but realistically, nothing has failed in crypto. The only thing that has failed is humans. Like humans have failed crypto by being central entities. Like everything that has collapsed or whatever had to do with humans, but the technology works, and they understand that. And it's so bullish. Like I said, I have a long time horizon. Some people in the space, they think like, 2 years from now and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. I don't like to think like that, because that'll just drive you mentally insane. I like to think of it as like, we're super early. If you have like a 10, 15, 20-year horizon, like I think the sky's the limit, in my opinion. It might not take that long, but it's always good, in my opinion, to set yourself for a longer duration, and anything that goes before that, it's just a bonus. And yeah, so long story short, I think it's super bullish, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I Frederick, what do you think, man? I mean, like, basically a global interoperable system in which everything just kind of plugs into, including CBDCs, including decentralized stuff. Do you think it is? Do you think it's viable? What do you reckon?
I think it's quite cool, especially that they realize that blockchains, decentralized ledgers have such cool technology that they even now want to use it. Even if they before were against crypto. I think this is quite nice that they acknowledge that the technology is useful. I'm really curious how they now continue, if they want to build their own stuff in a way, or if they rather want to jump on something that is existing and proving itself. Because I think this would be huge. And I also looked a little bit into the report. What I found interesting is how they were talking about this unified ledger. And I think, if I understood correctly, it doesn't need to be one blockchain, but it even could be multiple blockchains talking to each other. And this reminded me actually a lot about the Cosmos IBC to connect different blockchains. And I think it is also really nice that we're also in this ecosystem. And the other thing that I think was or that sparked my curiosity is they talked a lot about tokenization of, I think one was customer deposits at a bank, and the other one was about some assets. So I guess they mean stocks or houses or something like this. Yeah, and there I would like to know more of if they see it more only as a bank-to-bank system, or if it should be something where also the users are included. And I think the second one would be actually much greater, because then we also, as users, get a bit more of the pie if there are not so many intermediates in the system. But yeah, I haven't looked too deep into the report actually.
It's fair enough, man. It's a pretty detailed report and only came out today, so that's fair. But I think like just the fact that they haven't come out with just like, you know, the kind of crushing language that a lot of these big entities, these big financial entities tend to about cryptocurrencies. I think the fact that they haven't come out with that kind of language is extremely bullish. The fact that they even like they even mention like decentralized entities as well is fantastic. But the only I don't see stable coins really surviving that kind of system, I guess, because you know if you have a government issued equivalent of that, then I don't see the particular use case. I guess after that, I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, good point. I think it actually depends on how the CBDC is implemented and what kind of properties it has. Because maybe it's the dystopian thing that nobody wants with a bit of surveillance implemented in it. Then I think that stable coins like we have today still might win the user adoption race. But if they actually build a CBDC that does kind of make sense and is implementing privacy features and features for us users, then I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they, I feel like as long as they allow, like the fact that they like just allow decentralized systems to be interoperable with like a CBDC side of things, I think it's massive. I think if you allow people to be self-sovereign, allow people to be like completely decentralized, and you know do their thing that way, while allowing people who absolutely, you know, as I spoke about in the very early part of the podcast, allow people who really need those third parties, people who just are not technically savvy or completely unable for whatever reason to be their own bank, to use like the government issued side of things, while still allowing the decentralized self-sovereign stuff to exist. I think, you know, that could end up being the golden area if it works. And like you say, Frederick, if they do it sensibly, which I can't really put any trust in, but you know, you can be hopeful. Yeah, okay. So what I think we'll do, we'll just nip on to the next piece of news, I guess. And that's Darren. I don't know if you have any input on this one.
Nope, I'm good.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Okay. So the next piece of news we have today, we actually have the U.S. House Committee is voting on some crypto stablecoin legislation in July. Essentially, it's aimed at creating a clearer pathway for like digital assets to transition from securities to commodities. And this is sorely needed because obviously we have all this very hostile regulatory environment being pursued by the SEC in America right now. It's bad for the space. It's not great for Americans in particular because it's obviously driving away innovation from America. So having the ability to just some clarity on how you can become a commodity when you are already assumed to be a security by any of these entities, it's pretty huge, I think. I don't know if anyone on the stage or anyone in the listeners right now has any more input on this than I do on the regulatory side of things, but I think it's pretty interesting. We've actually just gained a new speaker, L3. I guess Lens. I'm not sure what you want to be called, my friend. Hi. Can you hear me, El? Sorry, I don't.
That's my call to action. I'm sorry, Frederick, earlier. I thought I couldn't hear you. I had to back out. I don't know what happened. But anyways, yeah, that's my call to action, Lens. So if you're there, like, what's up? Happy Friday.
Okay, well, L in the chat for this for Love Heart. I'm afraid. If you figure out your microphone and if you figure out how to come off the speaker, then by all means, just put your hand up and we'll have a chat with you, my friend. Anyone else who wants to come up and speak, please feel free to. By the way, this is a community space. We actually have 2 podcasts every week. This one is the community space for our Galactica network citizens, community members. We also have another one on a Tuesday, which is more for like topic-based discussions and more like a more strict kind of podcast style. So yeah, if you want to come up and speak, just request, and we'll get you up if you're not a bot. We'll really appreciate your input. Okay, so unless anyone has any more input on the legislation side of things, on the stablecoin stuff, I think it's great. I think it's great to have any kind of clarity really on the ability to become a commodity after you've already been deemed a security. There has to be a pathway there. Basically, once a protocol becomes sufficiently decentralized, I think is the main point. But Hoss, you had your hand up, mate, please.
Yeah, I guess wanted to add a little context with stablecoins. I think even stablecoins are super early, and over time they're gonna evolve into more than just like always being pegged to the dollar. Like I've had some discussions with some people that essentially are, they're economists, and they have some theories about like stablecoins in the future being more like a float coin that's backed by like multiple currencies and different assets that like kind of like what the central banks kind of do and things like that, and like like I think stable coins can be kind of what they are now, but I also think there's going to be other ones that perhaps that on a global scale big money would potentially adopt. I don't think there's any stable coins currently that like big money would adopt, and also like the fact that like stable coins won't be really utilized, in my opinion, to make really money on them per se. It would be more just to have to spend, or like just to chill for a minute, not really to make yields. So it's going to be fascinating to see the evolution of the stable coin too. I think we're super early. There are some people out there that have like pretty cool models. Like I like Dai's model, and there's one in Shade Protocol. It's called Silk. It's backed by like 6 different assets, including a little bit of Bitcoin as well. It's like the franc, the USD, maybe even the yen, a couple other currencies, and Bitcoin and gold too. So it's kind of a unique approach. I do think we're so early. It's just kind of being like trial and error. We've seen some people shoot for the stars like UST and fell miserably. And I don't even know if UST's design was really flawed. I just think the whole Anchor protocol ordeal was kind of like, no pun intended, what sunk their ship, and Anchor and sunk it. So it was, I guess, meant to be, sadly, for anyone in Cosmos. But yeah, I think that part of it is going to be very fascinating over like the next 5 to 10 years.
100%, man. It really is. Stablecoins, like just the entire industry, is fascinating. Just how different all of them are built. We've actually just gained up a new speaker, everyone. I would like to welcome our co-founder, Sarvodaya. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, yeah, apologies for being late. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
What do you guys think about kind of like crypto native stablecoins like RAI?
Depends on the way the algorithmic part is designed. I mean, I guess like RAI or like DAI, more or less, like when it was Ethereum based. So like what's the collateral and what's the way in which it gains its stability? Basically, I think it depends on these 2 things.
I mean, for RAI specifically, it's like a quote unquote like a dampened ETH product where it's based on like a crypto native like collateral, but it doesn't intend to peg to like the dollar.
Got it. No, then it's like it's wonderful, but stable coins, I guess, the major point of them in the end is convenience on the side of traders and stuff like this. And so basically, whenever it is not pegged to something fiat, it will gain, I guess, adoption outside of the circles of crypto native guys in the future, and I would qualify this future as mid to long term. Other than that, the idea is beautiful, and yeah, I mean, Olympus was trying to do something like this, as I recall. How it ended up. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think broadly, if we think about what products people want for speculation or for trading, it's Rye seems like quite it's a very safe mechanism, right? Because you don't have a lot of peg risk. On the other hand, in terms of actual usability, it seems a lot more difficult for people to want to hold that as kind of like a reserve currency or what have you. But yeah, I think the point about Ohm too is well taken, and it's interesting to see how Ohm is trying to transition and pivot, but it's not clear if they're going to be able to succeed in doing so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you don't have too much of a peg risk, you also don't have too much of peg utility, right? So I mean, it's cool when the thing is just $1 or whatever. So, but yeah, in terms of Ohm, same thing. It's a very beautiful idea, but yeah, I mean, once you overemphasize on a bit of I don't want to call it Ponzi, but speculative side of things, then it turns into another volatile asset, I guess, and then it invites speculation, and then basically I don't see how it's better than ETH overall. But yeah.
Sarv, what do you think about? We've just been talking about the Bank of International Settlements and the fact that they want to create some sort of unified ledger that integrates CBDCs and everything else. And there is a couple of pieces in the report about interoperability. What do you think happens to stablecoins and that kind of thing when CBDCs get involved, or if they become interoperable?
I guess it turns into cash analogy. So basically you have kind of like money market fund type of instruments. In traditional finance, you have basically just the fiat. And so in the same way, basically the stable coins will be basically the cash, kinda. And so, because as I recall, the BIS was mostly talking about tokenizing the bank deposits, therefore it's yield bearing. Since it's yield bearing, it's more like a money market instrument, to the best of my understanding. And therefore, it's just adding tiers to complexity of financial instruments in Web3. So it's wonderful, I guess, as a premise. But once it's going to come to implementation, you always know that execution is what matters in the very end. I guess once you give the power centers of traditional finance to design a system in which you will have Web3 and tokenization, I guess our hope that they will respect user privacy, and our hope that it's not going to turn into just TradFi, but with efficiency benefits of Web3 platform, but without all the ethos thereof. I don't think we have too much hope in that. So, I mean, BIS stuff is beautiful. It's a very nice, step in a sense. It's nice that they talk about this and stuff like this. I understand where they're coming from. They want regulation somehow. They want oversight. They want all the other things. But basically, intermediaries will be turning from, whom we have currently in TradFi to those who govern the network. And once it's like this, I don't feel that there is a lot of space for the philosophy of Web3 to remain in that setup. So they're not gonna ask you, how you see your privacy to exist in this brave new world. So that's my concern with it. Other than that, everything they write about is cool. I have seen a lot of stuff, basically, where we were coming from with our design considerations of, Galactica, and so it's nice. But again, I don't believe that they will truly put all the privacy respecting mechanisms in place and stuff like this. So therefore, it's kind of, there is something good, there is something bad about it.
Yeah, I think me and Horst were both saying that there's going to be a lot of hope involved in the implementation side as well. It's you can't really trust these institutions to do it properly, or to do it without any kind of without just trying to crush the, as you said, crush the ethos. Okay, guys. So I think that's pretty much most of the news today. So we thank you very much for listening to the news portion. I'd like to just remind everyone who's listening right now, if you could just jump down, give us a couple, like 1 minute of your time. It's completely free to do. Check in the comment section, give us a like, give us a retweet, and put any comments you wish to in the comment section. I'd also advise you very much so if you could check out the pinned tweets. The pinned tweet right now is to do with Galactica Network's Cypher State campaign, which we will be going into once again in the next part of the show. But essentially, just need to click on that tweet, join our Discord, and it will give you the opportunity to perhaps become one of our earliest holders of our Galactica Network citizenship passports. It requires some work. It requires you, contributing to Galactica Network at our very early stage of development we're at. But personally, obviously not financial advice, I think it's very much worth your time. Just give it a click and check out what you have to do in order to get involved. In fact, we actually have a couple of our high ranks in Discord in the listeners I see. Shout out to Send the Slayer. Hey, how you doing, man? And BZ, nice to see you. Nice to see you listening. Okay, guys. So what we'll do right now, I think what we'll do is we'll go into the second part of the show. As I say, we've got a few things to discuss right now. A lot of which is to do with just giving some clarity on how things work with the Galactica, with the Cypher State campaign, and specifically with how the wave system works as far as the distribution of Galactica Network citizenships. Because we've had a few questions about it, so we think a bit of clarity is required. We've also got a bunch of questions that we've collated over the last week or so that you've been sending in over Discord and DMs and everything else. So we'd like to make sure that we get a lot of those things answered. And as we've got Sarv up here, we've got AStar. So we've got pretty much all bases covered as far as questions and answers and that kind of thing. Anyone who actually wishes to come up and actually ask the question in person, please feel free to just request to speak. You're more than welcome up on the stage, and we will get your questions answered as much as we can. We've got a few requests, so we'll get them up. And yeah, so we'll just head straight into it, I think. So I think what we'll start with is that we have we actually have a video short on this on the Galactica Network citizenship and the wave system. So I'll pin that to the top. I think we've just got a new speaker on, so we'll just say hello. We've just got our Crypto Native. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. Thank you. Loving these spaces. I hope you guys can hear me well. And I just had a quick question. So a little while ago, I read one of the Medium articles referring to the European Digital Identity Wallet, and it brought up a good question. I got to the back there where it says the right to erase, the right to be forgotten, which reminded me, look, my own personal situation in the country I live in, via a mix-up, over $30 basically with my telecommunications provider. I ended up, there was a bit of a mix-up where I thought I had paid it off as I was winding up my contract with them. It seems I didn't, and I subsequently ended up with a black mark next to my, basically on my credit profile, which made it very, very hard for me for 5 or 7 years. They basically have a black mark next to your name, which makes it very hard to get any loans. I was trying to acquire a property, which was, it made life very difficult. So to that point, the right to erase, right to be forgotten, I'm wondering what your guys' opinions are on that, and if Galactica can actually do that.
I think maybe that would end up in rather than going into a reactive stance, maybe a proactive stance in the fact that, we have a right to privacy on Galactica Network. Maybe Sarv can speak to this better than I can. I'm not sure.
I'd like to hear firstly maybe Mr. AStar give his opinion, then I'm going to jump with mine.
First throw together. That sounds awful to be getting caught up in such a thing where you are not responsible, and you get this black mark, and then all the disadvantages. I think this is a real problem. And yeah, so on Galactica, I think there's this one thing that helps you is the privacy part, where now I don't know how it was for you, but probably you had to share your personal data with the company where you fail to cancel the contract, or they fail to cancel the contract. And on Galactica, there's this nice feature with zero knowledge KYCs that you can prove to a company that you are a real person without actually giving them your name or address or something like this. So I think this might have helped that they never gotten your data to give you a black mark or something like this. On the other hand, Galactica also has this reputation system where it depends a lot on how the devs want to build their own reputation. So I'm not so sure how it would play out there. And about the EU digital identity wallet and the right to be forgotten you mentioned, I think this is a really complex topic, because even in the EU regulation itself, there are some caveats to it, that there are systems that don't need to follow the right to be forgotten. For example, I think if you have some law enforcement records or something like this, there the right to be forgotten doesn't apply. Or yeah, and there I'm actually not so sure, because I'm not a lawyer, just a programmer. I can't really tell how this is going to be translated to systems like blockchains, where the EU now starts to clarify more and more regulation. Because I think on blockchains, especially, it's a hard to implement feature, the right to be forgotten, just because it's somehow against the core principle of having a public ledger. So I think what we are trying on Galactica with hiding data and keeping it private through zero knowledge is maybe one of the best ways to prevent these problems from occurring, even though we are not implementing the right to be forgotten directly. Does it make sense?
Let me maybe just jump for a second, just add a bit here. So just a little bit. So first of all, thank you for the question, Native. It's like a beautiful one. It's quite philosophical in the end, because indeed, it implies this kind of like subjective judgment as to what exactly merits being forgotten and what not. So, but overall, the same way, I mean, I'm a kind of like a free market maxi to an extent, I guess. And so the idea is that, in your particular case, for example, there is a centralized authority system that has particular rules, and something like a joke of $30, which you clearly just forgotten about, can actually like not ruin your life, of course, but, make you a lot of problems. In Galactica, the idea is that the reputation function can be given and can be specified by any particular DApp and any particular user. So in the very end, if there is one lending application that considers that $30 is a big enough problem for them to basically mess up your credit history and to give you awful terms, but then there is another DApp which says that okay, $30 is probably not such a big deal, maybe like several consecutive delinquencies or failures to pay or defaults, maybe that's a good reason to like mess with your credit rating. And then basically a lot of people would obviously prefer the second one because it's just much more reasonable. And so the idea is that once you are able to decentralize governance and make it much more flexible in this particular respect in setting the reputation functions, then basically I think a lot of these nonsensical things will go away. But at the same time, clearly a right to be forgotten maybe doesn't work that well in case if, indeed there is some criminal record or some other stuff like this, because there must be mechanisms to instill, to give you the cost of misbehavior, in a sense, to specify the cost function of misbehavior for you. And this basically just gives you discipline. So basically, coming back to the question, I guess there will not be so unreasonable people to give actually some big problems for you having like this $30 whatever default or failure to payment, to pay or delinquency or whatever it was. But at the same time, given it's a public ledger, it's going to be difficult to forget stuff. So I hope this makes sense. And also, basically, we're getting into the territory of negative reputation. I guess this will be the most complicated question the DSOC builders will have to solve. It's very non-trivial. And well, in my opinion, the best way to do it is to let the market decide. If all the people go towards the DApp that says $30 is a problem, well, then clearly there will be a counterculture, another DApp, maybe a fork of the first one, which basically says, guys, $30 is not a problem. And then a lot of people will go towards that one simply because it's just much more reasonable. So once you allow the market decide, I think that will bring the most efficient outcome. And thanks God, the Web3 does provide us with this type of flexibility. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah. Look, that was a very complex question, and that does actually make sense. The notion of the free market basically deciding and sorting that whole issue out does actually make sense. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. We've always got our team members up here to help you out. I think, in some ways, just having the base layer of smart contracts must assist in this in some way as well. Just at a very fundamental level, just having this kind of interaction on chain rather than off chain would probably reduce a lot of these errors. Also, one thing that Sarv mentioned there, DSOC, for anyone who doesn't know, that is decentralized society, and it's one of the core tenets of Galactica Network. So obviously, Galactica Network is attempting to bring not just the financial rails to the financial rails you already know and love, blockchain, but also the social rails that you can have a reputation on chain and almost pretty bulletproof Sybil resistance, which enables an awful lot of brand new concepts to be enabled on chain. So new forms of DeFi, new DAOs, new governance, just stuff that you've never seen before on chain to be fully realized. So yeah, decentralized society, it's a huge concept, and it's one that's near and dear to all of our hearts up here on the stage. So I think thank you very much for the question, Native. That was absolutely fantastic. If anyone else would like to just pop their get up here and have a chat and ask any questions, please by all means just request to speak. Anyone who's already on the stage, just if you want to interrupt at any point, just raise your hand. It's just a free flowing conversation here, to be honest.
Can I do that just for a sec? I'm raising my hand, kind of. I don't know how to do it with the with the interface here.
Consider it raised.
Wonderful. So I was just wondering, Darren, so since we're both working, both Penumbra and Galactica are working on the privacy solutions, I guess once privacy solutions are concerned, the idea of account heterogeneity and adverse reputation for that matter, and in general the questions of privacy versus compliance in a very general sense of the word, not just necessarily regulatory. What do you think about this? Basically, what do you think about adverse reputation? Because for me, it's like one of the most fascinating topics in in contemporary Web3 in a sense.
Did you say diversification?
Adverse reputation, sorry.
Adverse reputation, I see. Interesting. I guess my general view is that there will be kind of many different ways people interact with these systems. Some will be more autonomous than others. Some will require reputation. Some will be potentially more PvP, and there potentially is some type of adverse selection because more of an autonomous system than not. And then others will be, much more trusted, and, you won't have to necessarily kind of watch every single action that you're doing, but you can have some kind of assumption around what the mechanisms will be and what the failure modes are. So I guess I'm like pretty open-minded as to how that might work, but I imagine that like there's definitely a world where CBDCs can, work perfectly with kind of a more Wild West, like cypherpunk ethos.
Wild West cypherpunk ethos. I like the sound of that. That's definitely up my alley. Sarv, do you have a response, or shall I move on?
Yeah, I have a lot of responses, but yeah, I guess for the benefit of time, we're gonna sit down on, I guess, on Tuesday. We're gonna have a lot of discussions about that. I'm gonna make sure I do my homework.
100%. We're looking forward to having a wonderful conversation with Penumbra and Darren on the Tuesday podcast. Again, for anyone who's not aware, this is actually one of two podcasts we run every week. This is our community-focused podcast. Hence, we have like speakers up, and you guys can just come up and join, ask your questions whenever you wish. On Tuesday, we have the more like the topic-focused kind of podcast where we have guests on, like potential people who are specialists who have an interest in the topics being spoken about. We don't do so many speakers, but we have really in-depth conversations about the news and about the topics that we're talking about. So it's two very different podcasts, but both very much what we're listening to. So I hope everyone who's listening right now comes to join us on the Tuesday podcast when we speak to Darren and Penumbra. So I think what we'll do right now, again, quickly, if you guys can just jump down into the comments below, give us a like and retweet on the space. It really helps get out the podcast to more people, the space to more people, and allows us to get more people on the recording as well. Just get more people like educated, because at the end of the day, we have a bias. We're here to tell you about Galactica Network. Tell you why we think that we are providing value to the blockchain space. But we're also here for education. We're here to make sure that everyone learns something today, and on every space that we do. And try and get people understanding the value of decentralization, the value of their privacy, and the value of having their reputation and privacy on chain at the same time. So what we'll do right now, we're just going to, I think what I wanted to really move on to was our Galactica Network citizenship, what it means, and essentially, and the wave system specifically, because we've had quite a few questions about the wave system and why it matters and what it does and what it doesn't do. So I think we'll move on to that. We have what I've done is I pinned at the top a tweet concerning the Galactica Network citizenship. It's a thread, and it includes a YouTube short in which we try to explain it as succinctly as we can in the short through like a story narrative to make it nice and easy to digest. And like I say, it's in a thread format on Twitter as well, so there's a lot of information in there in text. Should give you a bit more of a clearer idea. But I'll just go through it very quickly now, and if anyone wants to butt in at any point, please just raise your hand, and we'll get every input we can. So essentially, Galactica Network citizenship. We'll start there because it's good to know what it actually is. It's essentially the very first protocol citizenship. Like you're a citizen. You're a citizen to your host country, to maybe the country you're born in, so the country that you request citizenship to. Apologies if you can hear my baby in the background there. I apologize. But you can think of it as an analog of that, as an analog of the passport that you get issued by those states. But instead of like a physical passport, it's represented on chain by what we call a ZK certificate, which is essentially a soulbound token. So it's in your wallet, or it's represented. I think it's actually in a smart contract, if I'm correct, AStar. I don't think is it an SPT, or is it an actual? Is it just is it through the contract?
Yeah, it's an SPT, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So these ZK certificates, these passports, they're actually notarized by private decentralized KYC guardians. So you can actually end up with your citizenship includes your information, private, and you can share your information from that from the information in your citizenship with other people on chain. Through zero-knowledge cryptography, you can do that privately with just about any other entity on chain. So this enables an awful lot of things. Some of the stuff that I just mentioned before, like having these reputational transactions with DEXs, with DAOs, with governance systems, that kind of thing. So it's technically and functionally, it's incredibly impressive. But as far as the actual benefits of, like, for you, the direct benefits of holding one of our Galactica Network Citizenship passports, it offers you mainly what you might want to know is it offers a universal basic income. So this is the value produced by and within the network, and that basically anything as the value produced in the network goes up, you have an income coming into your wallet at regular intervals. It also gives you the right to become a validator and earn those rewards. So if you run a validator for us, then you get obviously validator rewards. It also gives you the right and responsibility to participate in, like, Galactica's governance process, which is again, this is a meritocratic governance process. So it's a bit different from a lot of governance systems you might have seen. The simplest way of explaining it is a lot of listeners, you might be involved in a DAO already. But you might also know that in a normal DAO, as they currently exist, they are essentially like token gated. So you have whoever holds the most tokens gets the most votes, and that's pretty much the long and the short of it. But in a meritocratic system, you have you have reputation functions in there, and you have the ability to identify people who are more qualified on certain votes in order to raise and lower the voting power depending on someone's specialty. Now, I feel like I've monologued a little bit, so I'll just double check with anyone on our speaker panel if there's anything that I might have missed just up to this point, or if there's anything else you want to add before I carry on.
Yeah, so basically maybe I should add a couple of things here just real quick. So the first thing, which is kind of like important, is that just having the SBT with your ZK KYC information, that's not enough to be a citizen. So that's one very important thing. So the citizenship is basically just a whitelist. You can think about it this way. For which having the KYC information is, well, ZK KYC information is an important, but not a sufficient set of inputs. And so basically the way we see it is that, back in the days, the ICOs allowed you to use the tokens to fundraise. So basically you had startups being able to emerge on the Web3 space quite natively without interference from the traditional regulatory bodies and the regulatory process itself. So in the same way, now the Web3 stack has sufficiently evolved so that you can have startup nations, as they call them. And so basically the idea is that in the very end, what is a nation? So a nation is just a set of subjects and the political process which unites them, more or less. So what determines whether you are one of such subjects is whether you have the citizenship of a given nation. So the citizenship, basically your passport, gives you rights and responsibilities. Responsibilities being, I don't know, taxes, military service, maybe, other things. The rights are social security, and basically all the other benefits that come with your passport, being able to travel, being able to use the infrastructure of the state, being able to get education, work, and, well, you know better than me, maybe, or at the same level as me. Everybody knows what a passport gives you. And so in the same way, the protocol citizenship is basically a list of subjects, and that's why Sybil resistance is very important. That's not something you can have on purely pseudonymous networks. So it's a list of subjects, so the citizens in our case, that govern the network, and Galactica in particular, but pretty much many other Sybil-resistant networks have a very elaborate political process, basically a much less trivial DAO in that particular respect. And so basically once you are part of those subjects, once you have the passport, once you are basically with the other such citizens, you can govern the network. Governing the network clearly involves all kinds of proposals and all the other things which you would expect to see in any other DAO. but also it is the distribution of the value that is generated within the network that you govern over. So in particular, the value that's generated within the network is inflation. That's one thing. So basically the infusions of new coins into the system. And clearly those infusions can either go to miners or to validators, as it is in a vast majority of other layer 1 protocols. But for example, they could also go towards funding innovation. So innovation is a public good, as we all know. And then after the public good produces some particular IP, this IP is commercialized. So the way it works in traditional nation states, in the vast majority of those at least, is that the innovation is produced in universities and research labs. And then the innovation, once produced, it's captured by the corporations most of the time, or other private interests. And then basically you as a citizen, you do get indirect benefit by being able to use an iPhone, being able to, call, and pretty much being able to use the infrastructure, but you do not benefit from the commercial gains that result with this innovation. So because clearly the shareholders of those corporations do get it. In other words, nobody has ever asked you whether you want to, get a part of some kind of incoming streams of income. For example, some shares of IP produced by Apple if you live in the United States, or I guess other corporations if you live elsewhere. And so basically in Galactica, what we are trying to achieve is that citizens, the subjects of the political process, they govern the distribution of economic wealth created within the network, but also through the means of the UBI, they do get the yields of that innovation. And that's a very important stuff, which you can imagine something like sovereign funds of say, Norway or Dubai, where you as a citizen of those God-blessed countries do get an exposure to the results of these investing processes. But we want to implement that on-chain. So basically, one of the very important motivations for having that is that AI, with all the exponential growth it is getting at the moment, will replace a lot of white-collar jobs. In the mid to long term, it will also replace a lot of blue-collar jobs as well. And so basically, then there is a very good question as to what these people whose jobs are replaced would really be kind of working on, apart from some service economy, which presumably will blossom in the upcoming decades. And so the idea is that your social capital on-chain can be monetized and can be, basically can result in you receiving the distributions of the value produced within the network. And so that's pretty much the idea of the citizenship. So basically, citizens are those who govern the network and those who benefit from innovation and value produced within the network. In the same way, like miners benefit from, receive incentives to kind of like be the backbone of the security model of, let's say, Bitcoin. In Galactica, the citizens receive incentive to be a part of the social backbone of Galactica as a nation, or as a Cypher State. Not really a nation state for this point, but yeah. So the way I see it emerging in the, 5 to 10 years, maybe more, is that there will be much more things than just running a validator and being able to participate in the governance. Is the access to real world assets, is the access to this basically small islands of property, which would be basically like distributed across the physical states. And it's many other things. A lot of dApps will be only accessible to citizens. So basically the same way you imagine you benefiting from your citizenship of your nation state, our idea is to have representation of that on-chain, and clearly with all the composability and rapid pace of innovation that Web3 enables, I see this to be much more granular, much more democratic in a sense. And well, in our particular case, much more meritocratic in the very end. I hope this kind of makes sense. And also, clearly the citizenships are an incentive unit for everyone to contribute towards the growth of Galactica. So basically, citizenships, they are the same way in a traditional state. It's a scarce resource. So, I mean, we cannot just give passports to everyone in terms of if you are a nation state, let's say. So clearly there is a process. And so, and if the nation state is big and wealthy, then a lot of people will be trying to get inside, in a sense. So in the same way, we try to do it in Galactica. So your contribution determines whether you are a part of the family, in a sense. Some Vin Diesel vibes here, or not. And so basically, yes, that's the idea of a citizenship.
Absolutely amazing stuff. Really, I find it absolutely like incredible just how much power citizens are going to actually have in this system. Like through the meritocratic governance systems of Galactica Network, you'll basically be able to like end up not only with a massive level of control, considering whatever like contributions you give, but you'll also be able to get like actually extract the value of your contributions as well in meaningful ways. Like it's really impressive, and I genuinely can't wait to get onto mainnet. I really can. Like as a citizen, you'll be able to go in, you'll be able to actually enter into the governance system. You'll be able to determine the voting power distributions, the inflation distributions. You'll be able to you'll be able to actually like help people who like projects who might be wanting to build on Galactica. You'll be able to actually get these projects not only through the system and onto Galactica, but also extract value from their innovation. It's absolutely incredible, and it's just it just makes me happy. Does anyone else have any input on this particular section before I just do a bit of a shill and a bit of a reminder for people?
We will discuss the wave system, right? Going forward.
Yeah, that's the next part. That's the next part, Sav. Don't worry, I've got you. Essentially, I'd just like to just give everyone a reminder. We've got a couple of requests coming in, so we're just going to check those out. In fact, I don't need to because it's Sen, so I'm going to let Sen up straight away. Sen is one of our ghosts in the chain. He's actually one of our highest ranked members on Discord. So welcome to the panel, Sen. It's really good to have you up.
Oh, hey man. Can you guys hear me? Because it's raining super hard here. I hope it's not going through the mic too much.
I can hear you just fine, Sen.
Ah, perfect. Hey, appreciate you guys taking the time to do these spaces for us, man. I had a question about KYC that I've been thinking about for a while. I mean, if I went to an airport, presumably if I use my passport, they'll probably check my identity against a database. So I was just wondering with KYC guardians, whether they're stringent. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is what's stopping a person from like photoshopping a legitimate passport, but just adding their own face and a different name to it to pass off as a various number of different identities. Just I guess just gaming the system. Wherever there's a financial incentive, I always believe someone would try and find a way to game whatever
you
system
are breaking
there
up
is.
a little bit. Like you're breaking up a little bit, so I'm just going to try and interpret the question a little bit. But like basically preventing fraud and preventing civil attacks, right?
Yeah.
So I think in that particular situation, it comes down to the guardians that we use. So like guardians, for anyone who doesn't know, are essentially they're notaries. They're off-chain notaries that are able to communicate with the Galactica blockchain through zero-knowledge cryptography. So you can that's kind of where where the buck stops there. And as far as I'm aware, please, anyone who's capable of correcting me, please do. But I believe that the buck would stop at the KYC center that was the guardian used. So you obviously try that's their job to prevent that kind of thing. Correct, AStar, Sav?
Yeah. So how I understood your question, it's about a KYC guardian who was behaving maliciously, right? Right, Sam?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. It's actually quite interesting because I had the same question, I think, a couple of months ago. And we were also thinking about this. And yeah, it's quite complicated because actually we rely on these guardians to prove that an account belongs to a human. And if this this part doesn't work properly, there are problems for the system systems. And if I remember correctly, we thought that we can resolve this by giving also the guardians some reputation, meaning that that the reputation of the guardian will be used to identify how reliable the KYC coming out of it is.
Yeah, so basically, maybe I can add as well a little bit. So basically, I mean, look, there is a state of the art in the technologies surrounding the identity verification. So, I mean, I have been working for some time on some of the solutions aimed towards this. And the error rate is quite low eventually, but of course, it's not bulletproof. So in other words, of course, there will be a lot of people who will be trying to game the system. And basically, you know, some of them will succeed. Few of them, if any, will be able to succeed for a long time. And basically what we are doing at the moment is that, and we will continue doing that forever, basically, is that Galactica is a platform. This platform enables connectivity for the KYC centers, as we used to call them, or guardians for KYC, as we call them now. So basically, let's talk. I mean, I see some logo on the back of your profile picture. So let's say Swissborg. If I am coming to Swissborg, let's say, and I have my, you know, and I have some intentions to, you know, to misrepresent myself as some other person, I am pretty sure I'm not going to be able to do that. And this is because this is the business of this type of centralized counterparties to ensure that it's, you know, it's difficult to game them. Clearly, there is an error rate with any such provider, I guess. Not sure, but I guess so. And the idea is that the way it functions on Galactica is that the KYC is just this first little step into the system. And then on the system, your social contribution is what really will define your weight in the political process, as well as in pretty much any other interactions which concern reputation. And so the way I understand it is that a lot of malicious actors will be caught at the very first step, and those who won't be caught, they will eventually end up not being able to proceed down the road. But overall, our vision here is that we want our platform to be as robust or more than any of the centralized counterparties that decide to connect to the network. And then it's going to be up to the user, and it's going to be up to the dApp builders what kind of KYC they will accept. Clearly, if you take some local small exchange from some particular, I don't know, from some developing country, the KYC standards there and the identity verification in general are quite low. So if you go, let's say, to Coinbase, well, clearly it's kind of difficult to game their system because that's their business, that's their bread and butter. And therefore, if, let's say, you are a dApp and you don't care that much, you can deploy a dApp having lower quality KYCs to be accepted. Let's say if you are a dApp that does care a lot for this type of things, then clearly you will whitelist only those who passed KYC with a more reputable provider. So basically, in other words, this is a way to decentralize the KYC process and give the power back to the builders and to the users as to which KYC they trust. And as I said, we want to make our system as robust or more, and that's why what we are adding on top are the reputation scores for the guardians themselves. Which will serve to further lower the amount of well, false positives, if you will. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, man, appreciate the answer. It sounds like it's a nuanced and quite a complex process. I didn't realize you could have multiple different types of KYC verifications. But you're right. Like Swissborg would have a very, very high standard, and it's very hard to game. So it's interesting that you'd have different centers to be able to provide different types of levels of KYC within the same system. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you for the question. And by the way, I just wanted to add a bit more on that. So basically, it's one of our foundational ideas that, you know, the big problem with DeFi, in a sense, is that there are certain things that CeFi is better in, just like fundamentally. And so those things are basically the UX, clearly, because, you know, doing a lot of computations on chain is naturally less efficient and much more costly in that. And the second thing is that it is impossible to imagine compliance to exist on chain. So I mean, really, if you delve deep, these are the two core things that DeFi cannot do that CeFi can. And so for these two things, really, we as Web3 users are giving up our privacy, you know, to achieve. So, you know, we want better UX, we want to be compliant, we want to withdraw those, I don't know, BTC gains and spend them in the store, move them into fiat system, and that's why we need compliance. And so basically some of the premise of Galactica is that really both of these problems are solved with ZK cryptography. So as you all could see, and you can see with DYDX, really, if you think about it, DYDX UX is not that much worse, really, than any centralized exchange, maybe in some respects even better. And so the last, and clearly they achieved that with ZK proving chains of transactions on chain, basically verifying that the matching logic has not been tampered with and stuff like this. So the same thing applies to compliance with Galactica, you know. So if I can achieve on-chain levels of compliance, which is as robust or more than that of any centralized counterparty that provides those, then basically the CeFi component will slowly, not in an instance, of course, will slowly become more and more redundant. And so there will be lesser and lesser incentive for us, the Web3 crowd, to give up our privacy in order to achieve something we cannot achieve natively on chain. And so it's a very good question that you asked, and that's you know, it feeds into this general vision.
Absolutely incredible, guys. If you can imagine being able to just maintain levels of privacy, like the same kind of level as like the best that Web3 can offer, while still being able to transact in the way you do off chain, you know, that's the kind of goal that Galactica is going for. Just this ease of use and complete utility of use, and complete like the ability to just maintain your privacy while doing all this. It's incredible. And like we always come up with the same problems when we're talking about Galactica. It's incredibly technical. It's difficult to condense down these ideas into bite-sized chunks. So that's one of the things that's a benefit to going through our Cypher State campaign. In fact, is because part of the campaign is actually educational in nature. It's a good way to learn about Galactica Network. It's a really good way to like try and get some of these fundamental concepts in your head, while also earning your way towards a Galactica Network citizenship passport. Which is, as described by Sarv, is incredibly valuable within the ecosystem, and it's one of these it's going to be one of the most fundamentally utilitarian and useful NFTs, I suppose NFTs you could call it, that you could ever own. So I would just get on because we have a limited time now. So what I'd like to do, just a quick reminder, please just give us a like and a retweet on the space. We'd really appreciate that. And I'm just going to quickly go over distribution waves because this is one of the topics that's been brought up by our users as just not really a sticking point, but just something that hasn't really been clarified in a way that people are understanding fully. So you have your Galactica Network, your passport, but the way you actually acquire it is through distribution waves. So these essentially, like, they represent the various epochs in which a certain number of GNC passports can be earned. Through these high value contributions to the network in the Cypher State campaign, and through citizenship auctions. So they basically can either be earned or they can be bought in the auctions at the allotted time. So the early waves of GNC passports, like the Wave 1s and Wave 2s, Wave 3s, they're actually extremely limited in supply. So these are only available to users who actually contribute in a very meaningful way towards Galactica Network's development, especially at this early stage that we're at now. So essentially, that's what the Cypher State campaign is for, is identifying our early contributors, the people who are really providing value at the early stage we're at. So obviously, we've only just started our DevNet. It doesn't really get much earlier than this on an L1 blockchain. Just so anyone who's listening is aware. This is one of those times where you can actually be in on the ground floor and actually help us build. So those of you like successfully participating in the campaign will pretty much be able to earn your place in the earliest of these distribution waves for Galactica Network citizenships. And you'll be able to take advantage of these benefits that we've been talking about, the UBI, the validator rewards, and all the future possible rewards that Sarv was alluding to before anyone else can. So just to be very clear with that, you have some of the higher ranks, I believe rank 4, don't quote me on that, I believe that, but in any case, the higher ranks, you can actually get access, you can actually be able to participate in Wave 1. And this is the same level as our institutional partners. So it takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, don't get me wrong, it's not something that you can just come into our Discord and click, but I think it's worth the effort to go that far if you can. So you'll need to contribute to our net growth and our technical development and our social development mostly, but it's worth having a go. So to kind of understand why, that's kind of why being early matters. So Galactica Network, like a token, it's called the GNet. So those inflation rewards are distributed to citizenship holders in the form of their UBI. It's actually following, I'm not a mathematician, but I've been told it follows a negative power function, which in very simple terms, in my terms, which I prefer using, this means that basically the total amount of of the GNet token available for the universal basic income and the validator rewards, it will essentially the actual amount will decrease as time goes on. So you know what, Sarv, you might actually be able to explain this better than I could, mate, if you would.
Easy. Let me jump in. So basically, yeah, first of all, yeah, it's logarithmic, not negative power, but whatever. So basically the idea is that, imagine Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, being an early miner, well, basically all of them are quite happy people, I guess, unless they lost their private keys and stuff. So the rewards are high. The set of participating people is low. So the distribution per person is high. As time goes on, there are halvings in the Bitcoin emission function. And so the later you join, the more people have joined already. So basically the bigger is the number of people who want to share the pie, while the additions to the pie, the increases to the pie become smaller. So I hope this makes sense as a foundational concept. So now the GNC basically is just a limitation on the number of miners, if you will. Just that in Galactica, yes, there are validators, but there are also UBI beneficiaries. That is an alternative way of gaining value if you are not running a node in particular. And so basically the idea is the following. The waves, each of them, extends for a particular number of weeks. So the first wave begins with the launch of the mainnet. So those who have been activated for the first wave, so basically one of those lucky people to hold one of those 120, I guess, passports, they will be the beneficiaries of a big number of a large amount of GNet being emitted into circulation. The second wave gets a little bit less in terms of the GNet distributions, and also they have to share those distributions with a bigger amount of GNC holders, because GNC holders never decreases; it only increases with time. And so as we progress towards the fifth wave and so on, basically the fifth wave, you can consider it to be infinite. Just the GNCs will be auctioned off rather than earned. The less and less GNet is emitted per block, while at the same time, the more and more citizens there is in the system. Don't get me wrong, clearly there is also the increase in the value of the system itself. So being in the fifth wave is still very beneficiary. But the earlier you are in, the bigger is the pie there is to share. I hope this kind of makes sense. So we have scheduled a video which is going to be released, I guess, during the next week, which explains all of these things in detail and with numbers. So it's very important to understand that we're still quite early on. And so some of these things can change. The principle will not change, but some of the parameters might. So basically we'll explain this in detail during the next week. Also illustrated. So kind of helps for those with visual learning process. And so that I guess is the idea. Please feel free to ask me questions, because I feel like I have said all that's necessary, but maybe I could add something if you ask.
That actually really helped. But my ability to describe mathematical functions is limited. But I guess the practical effect of all this for anyone who decides to go through the Cypher State campaign and earn their citizenship is that basically users who support and contribute to the early development of Galactica Network and earn their GNC during these first waves, you guys will earn a significant portion of the total rewards compared to the people who gain their GNC passports in later waves. Is that about right, Sav?
Yeah, and so the very important part here is that this, in a similar fashion like Bitcoin, did not really require any significant, resources to run a miner node. So basically, you could have done it on your notebook. I guess you can do it on today's smartphone. The way we have decided to give this value to the citizens is based on their social merit, their social contribution, how you contribute to educating the new members, how you contribute to producing content, and other things like this, how you contribute to the cause of explaining to the people the benefits of a Cypher State as a concept of a supranational political entity. And that's that I guess is the most important part of it. Your social contribution is what brings you the prominence within the system, and presumably gains. I hope this makes sense. So basically, the social skills and the social contribution is as important for us as monetary contributions.
Absolutely, yeah. It makes a lot of sense to do it that way, and say it's the financial base of the previous systems that mean that it doesn't really work as well. So having this social aspect is really important. Just about everything we're doing as Galactica Network. I'd just like to give a very quick shout out. I'm not sure if you're actually still in the space, BZ, but I'd just like to congratulate you, because I believe you just hit Ghost in the chain rank from the first rank. So you've just gone up a rank, and you've joined Sen and various others who have got to the third rank to the second rank, I believe, in Discord, which means you can get access to Wave 3, I believe. And I think it's you'll actually be able to participate in Wave 3 of the Galactica Network citizenships. So congratulations, BZ. Well done, if you're here. Okay, everyone. So I think that's. I'll just give a very quick recap of what we've pretty much just gone over, I guess. So the Cypher State campaign, it's our very first community initiative. It's designed to reward the most active and valuable and loyal of our early adopters at the very early stage that we're at in development. So you just need to jump onto Discord. It utilizes Zeely as a platform in order to do the quests. So you just need to jump on Discord, sign up, link your account to Zeely, and then you can do these merit-based quests to increase your rank on Discord and earn all the rewards that we're talking about, including access and airdrops in some cases of GNCs. So your rank pretty much just determines the rewards you're entitled to receive. So from the really early ones you'll get like pretty much just utility unlocks on Discord, but then they go to participation NFTs for various things like the DevNet and testnet, that kind of thing. And then they go up to the stuff like the Galactica Network citizenships, which is at the very highest ends. So Galactica Network citizenship itself, this is pretty much the most important status you can have within the Cypher State of Galactica Network. So it provides you with your universal basic income, your validator rights, and your access to the governance features and certain citizen-only dApps. It provides you with an awful lot of benefits, as it would to like any other nation state. And basically, the Cypher State campaign, it represents just this rewarding path to becoming one of our network's earlier citizens. And we're trying to make it as fun and interactive as we can, and like Sarv said, as social as we can. So, you know, we are trying to make this a rewarding path for you, especially, as I say, at the early stage we're at. Okay, so I would just like to, this has been absolutely amazing. So I would just like to invite anyone who's on stage, if you'd like to have a final comment, please. Hoss, I'm really sorry. Me and Sarv have kind of been monologuing. I apologize, man. I hope you've found the space valuable at least.
No, I have. And full disclosure, like for my job, I speak for about 8 straight hours. You know, I listen as well, but I'm always I'm always in a conversation. So like when Friday comes along, I'm usually kind of out the pasture, so to speak. So it's nice to just listen, you know, and not have to gab the whole time. So no, I appreciate the conversation, and you know, always like it's really cool and unique what Galactica is doing. And what's so fascinating with this space is teams. I really respect teams, whether it works or not, that are trying to push the envelope of innovation and do things differently. You know, how many more DeFi protocols can one build, and like we need things that like people can actually utilize in real life. And it's a fact that it's 2023 going on 2024, but then there are things that we do still as humans that it seems like what year are we in, 1970, including governance and the monetary system, and just crypto is really fascinating in that aspect. And I do believe that it's rails to future endeavors on so many different facets of like what we do on a day to day. So, you know, I love the vision that Galactica is, you know, attempting to do. It's very ambitious. It's noble. And, you know, time will only tell, but the people that I believe that are building this, you know, have the best intentions, and they're really pushing the envelope of innovation. So, you know, I just like to always shout out everyone that stops by, especially, you know, during this market and a Friday, because Fridays usually a lot of times people are like, it's the weekend, like let's go out and do whatever. So, you know, to pat yourself on the back for those that didn't make it but are listening to the recording at some point. And yeah, just keep learning, growing, and improving yourself each and every day. That's all.
Thank you so much, Hoss. You're so right. Frederick, my friend, it's been great having you up, man. I hope you've had a good time. Don't know if you just want to say goodbye.
Yeah, sure. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much, Dave, for hosting. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It's great to have you here.
More than welcome, man. It's always great to have you up, dude. Sen, it's just been great to have you up, man. I really appreciate when you pop up, especially having our high rank people in the program coming up and speaking. It's super cool and super valuable. So thank you. Native, thank you for your question, man. Really appreciate that too. I actually appreciate all the questions that our community have given us so far. We've had quite a lot of stuff coming up in the AMA questions channel in the Discord. So we've been collating a lot of those questions in order to answer them as quickly as we can, as efficiently as we can. Anything that we can bring up on the spaces, we will, time permitting, of course. But we really appreciate your input. We really do. So I'd like to, again, thank you for those questions. And thank you for all of our speakers. I just wanted you to remember, guys, that this is actually one of 2 spaces that we host every week. So we'd be absolutely thrilled to see you on the second one we do, which is on Tuesday next week. It's called Into the Cypher State, and that will be at 8 o'clock UTC, same time as this one. In that case, we'll be just discussing the hottest topics in the space with some very cool people. In fact, I think we have Penumbra, and we have another very, very cool guest on as well. So that one will be one to listen to for sure. It's going to be one of our best yet, I think. So if you could just make sure that you check the pinned tweet, that will direct you to the Cypher State campaign, what we've been talking about a lot of this evening. And you can basically get in early on our protocol, see if you can contribute, and then get your Galactica Network citizenship in return. There's a variety of levels, so you can get in at various waves, various citizenship waves, as has been discussed. So it's definitely worth your while to check it out. Our website is galactica.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter, and make sure, again, please, if you could drop down and give us a like and a retweet on the space, that would be super useful. It gets the recording out to more people. Thank you very much, everyone. So thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to say have a great weekend, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Galactica Corecast.